I'm fine.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
You're good.
All right. Yeah. So I'm currently sitting in Country 6 territory. I know we're probably covering a lot of territory on this call, and I will just say, yeah, for me, in terms of land acknowledgement, I am a settler here. I moved to the province when I was 12. And when I moved here, I did not learn and it wasn't part of my learning or the teachings that came to me, either through the education system or through the community that I was a part of, to learn about the land and to learn about the First Peoples here. And it's taken a long time for that to become a part of my life, um, and has become very important for me in terms of how I raise my children and to be part of kind of everyday thought and consideration in terms of the work and living that I do. And in particular, when we're talking about gender-based violence, I think it's important to think about the land that we're on and the relationship between colonialism and gender-based violence. And that's been a big teaching for me, and something I think is important, yeah, to continuously consider and keep in mind as we move forward doing this work. Yeah, so what are we doing here today? I joined FCSS 2.5 years ago, and I had come from the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters, doing primary prevention work with men and boys around the province, and came to the city of St. Albert and was, it's been a really exciting time. We've been doing really interesting work, and it's been a great opportunity. And then, I've had these opportunities to go to FCSS AA conferences and connect with colleagues from other parts of the province. And I have just been very curious about how we are all doing this work in these different ways. I know from my time with ACWS and interfacing with FCSS workers around the province, sometimes there are people who have a half-time, like the whole office of FCSS in their community is like one half-time person, and they're responsible for all the outcomes. And in other communities, there's multiple people focusing on different outcomes, and we're all trying to do this in these different ways. And this work is often very isolating. It's we're often the only people in our communities thinking and working on this, and it just struck me as I guess as an opportunity for us to communicate with each other, to connect, to try and learn from each other, to support each other. And so when I was at the FCSS AA conference in November last year, 2023, I asked people who attended a session that I ran, would you like to continue having these conversations? Would you like to talk together, think together, look at potential collaboration, like any way that we can work together and support each other? And there was a lot of interest. So I have been hoping that we would have gotten a bit more provincial direction, and I was kind of holding off on having this meeting, waiting to see if we would get some provincial direction, and that hasn't happened yet. And so I guess I just decided I don't want to wait any longer. People, this was like since last November. It's a bit too long to wait. So let's get together and at least connect and kind of reconvene for those of us who didn't were at the session in November, and for anybody new, let's connect and let's kind of see what where we want to go and what we want to do and think together. So that's the basic premise of what we're doing here. And I want to kind of stop talking for a minute and just give an opportunity. I guess the first thing I would like to do is just do a little activity with everybody. And share this. Okay. So is my opening slide. Everyone can see it. There's the name of today's session, the date, and my name, in case you didn't catch it. And then the question I want to ask everybody, and if you can use chat or you can speak using your voice, is let's try and figure out who is the most northernmost, who's the most westernmost, who's the most eastern, and who's the most southernmost office on our call today. So who thinks they're the most northernmost participant this morning? Anybody? We got somebody from Didsbury, pretty central. Anybody north of Edmonton? I'm in Edmonton. Okay, Valley View. Hi, Lisa. Okay, Morinville is, yeah, I think Valley View's our northernmost so far. Fairview and Valley View. Yeah, okay, I think Fairview. Okay, Cindy, I think you might be it. How about West? Anybody West? Yes, St. Albert. Yeah, congrats, Cindy. Spruce Grove. Okay, anybody West? Anybody from Grand Prairie, Grand Cache, Hinton? No? Okay. Edson, yes. Lexi, I think you're our westernmost winner today. Awesome. Okay, how about South? How are we doing in the South today? Anybody south of Didsbury? Okay, Camrose, Strathmore. Yeah, Emily's pretty far south. Nothing south of Strathmore? All right. And then how about east? I saw we have Fort Saskatchewan, which is east of Edmonton. Melissa? Yeah. Anybody east of Fort Saskatchewan? No? Nobody east of, okay. All right. Well, how about for the rest of folks, if you don't mind just putting in where you are from, just so we can get a bit of a sense in the chat. Sounds like we're a relatively central Alberta group for the most part so far. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, thanks for participating and putting in where you're from. Big group from Strathmore. Yeah, so thank you very much. And now, if people can, we're going to just put in a little poll. I just want to get a bit of a sense of how people are, how this work is in their world, in their work life. So Melissa, is that working? Yeah, awesome. So there should be a poll popping up on your screen, and we'll just get a bit of a sense of, yeah, the question is kind of, is, like, for me, gender-based violence is my primary responsibility. That's what I'm focusing on. The second option is gender-based violence one of a couple of responsibilities you have? So maybe you're doing like mental health and gender-based violence. And then the third one is gender-based violence, just one of many responsibilities you have. So you're kind of the one person in your community, or one of a couple of people, and you have like 4 or 5 accountabilities and outcomes that you're focusing on. So people can answer that, and then we'll have the responses and just getting a sense of kind of how much of people's portfolio gender-based violence is, how much of your time you get to, yeah, you get to kind of focus on
on gender-based violence.
Would you like me to end it now?
Sure, I think maybe just if you haven't answered, answer, and then yeah, that's great. Okay, yeah, so this gives us a pretty good picture here. You can see that a fifth of people have many accountabilities, many outcomes that they're focused on. Only, less than 15% are doing this as their primary focus, and two of those people are me and Leanne in St. Albert. So it's not that many folks. And then it looks like for the majority of people, it's one of two or maybe three outcomes that you're looking at. So yeah, it just kind of gives us a sense of kind of how much time, energy, and focus people can give to this. So thank you so much for participating in that and giving us a bit of a picture. If you were at my session in November, you'll remember, but I'll talk about this again for those who weren't there. We do have now, and this is something that gender-based violence, women's organizations, feminist organizations, many individuals have been asking for many years, is a national action plan to end gender-based violence. And that has been launched. And so that happened last year, early 2023. And like with other things, like we're seeing the National Dental Plan, these kinds of things, each province then has to come into an agreement with the federal government and kind of come to an agreement on how that will look in their territory. So in some provinces, it's like relatively smooth and simple, and the province and the federal government agree pretty much to what the national action plan looks like. In Alberta, like with a lot of the other federal plans, that's not been the case. The provincial government wants to have a lot more say in the details of how that plan rolls out. So I'm just the National Action Plan has 5 main areas of focus, but wow, there's a typo. That's not good. Sorry about that. So the National Action Plan, one of the areas of focus is primary prevention. So this is trying to ensure that people don't experience gender-based violence. And the way it's written, the way this point is summarized is looking at primary prevention approaches that address the root causes of gender-based violence in order to stop violence before it occurs. Prevention work must occur in a range of contexts, so in private spaces, public spaces, community spaces, workplaces, educational settings of all types, including post-secondary institutions and online settings. So, that kind of sets the stage for a lot of different work in a lot of different places. And yeah, really kind of looking at that. Some of the other of the 5 kind of pillars of the National Action Plan, we'll touch on areas that we're addressing in terms of intervention and what I would call sort of secondary prevention or tertiary prevention, where we're working with folks who have already used abuse tactics or violence, and we're trying to support them in not doing those things again. Or like working with children who've been exposed, who've experienced, who've witnessed, and have are experiencing the impacts of living in a space or experiencing violence, and trying to prevent, work with them to heal so that they are not passing that trauma on in other ways at other points in their lives. So those are also, I would say, parts of prevention, but this pillar really focuses on that primary prevention, kind of trying to address attitudes, values, and beliefs. So that's the National Action Plan. Then when we kind of come closer to Alberta, there's a number of plans that are sort of in play, I guess, I would say. So one of them, yeah, so the first one here is the National Action Plan. I don't know if folks have had time to kind of look at it. But then the second one is what the government of Alberta is doing. The government of Alberta has been consulting for several months. I think they've now closed the consultation, the open consultation component. So there was opportunities to give feedback online. They did some in-person consultations, and they are developing their own 10-year plan to end gender-based violence in Alberta. And yeah, so we haven't seen that plan yet. It's under, all the consultation is under review, and we'll see. I don't know how much it will diverge from the National Action Plan and kind of what it will look like. There will be $54 million in federal funding. But you can kind of, when I was younger and new to this work, that sounded like a lot of money. And now, you can kind of see, especially having worked at the provincial level with a provincial organization, like $54 million, when we think about, there's over 50 domestic violence shelters in the province, many sexual assault centers, lots of other programs and organizations that aren't either a shelter or a sexual assault center that are in this space. And this $54 million is not prevention focused. It's intervention, prevention. It's all of that. So that federal money, over several years is not necessarily going to go very far, but hopefully it will. It will push things a little bit, and we'll see. There's, it's yet to be seen if there'll be any provincial money added to that. Yeah, so we'll see. There are a number of other plans and or reports, I guess, and these all come out of SHIFT, which is an amazing project out of the University of Calgary, run by Lana Wells, and we're really blessed to have SHIFT in our province. They're really globally renowned research body on these issues. So they have created a release last year, the Alberta's Primary Prevention Playbook. So this is actually 13 different reports with different focuses on different areas of primary prevention, with just tons of information and guidance and supports. And there's a hope, at least for me, that they have the government's ear, and a lot of this will be kind of reflected in the provincial plan that the GOA takes on. They have another report called Building a Movement of Men and Boys Committed to Violence Prevention and Gender Equality in Alberta, which really focuses on the men and boys component. And then I was just looking yesterday, just as I was kind of completing and kind of making sure I was prepared for today, another report called the Calling in Men Research Project, which also just has amazing recommendations, lots of research. They're really trying to understand the evidence on engaging men and boys and what it holds. So, there's just there's a lot for us to potentially individually, choose to kind of work on and look at and take our direction from. And I guess, to me, it's kind of unclear whether we are going to, once the government of Alberta plan is in place, whether our FCSS AA outcomes measurement, outcome measures will be affected by that, and that we should be really looking to be guided by that, or if we either individually or collectively want to pick something else that gives us good direction and guides us well. But my understanding is we are significantly funded by the GOA, and it makes sense for our our measures to align with some, you know, some of their goals and outcomes. So I'm going to just stop talking. I'm talking a lot and very quickly, and just take a breath. I'm going to have a drink. So if anybody has any comments, questions, thoughts, or reflections, now is a good time just to start speaking or typing, however you want to communicate. And thank you, Shannon, for sharing a link to one of those documents, which is the Winning Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, the Primary Prevention Playbook. Yeah, there's so much there, and in a way, I guess what I kind of want to think about is, would it make, like, especially for folks who have this as one of several, or and then some, you know, one of many outcomes you're looking at, would it make sense for a smaller group to get together and kind of sift through you know, some of this and help guide us together? And is that something people want? Would that be helpful? Like, I don't want to do work that isn't helpful for people, that isn't wanted and needed, and I don't want to ask people to do work that isn't you know, isn't supportive for others or for them. So yeah, a lot of it is yeah, really trying to understand what would be helpful, what would be useful for people. So like, I think, yeah, if that's maybe like, that would be a good question for people to answer. If there's anything you can like think of right now, and you don't have to answer now, maybe we'll send out you know, a little questionnaire after. But if there are things you can think of right now, like, how are you feeling in the gender-based violence work that you're doing? What would be helpful, you know, in terms of getting together? What would be helpful to be provided? Yeah, what feels like it's missing? Or is there anything? Feel free to speak. I'm happy to hear. I would be happy to hear other people's voices other than my own this morning.
I was just gonna say, the FCSS community is not shy, so feel free to turn on your camera or just at least turn on your microphone if you'd like to speak.
I can speak a bit from my experience. I've worked in family violence for a number of years. I'm new to my role with FCSS. So working with our partners in Fort Saskatchewan that are working with women and families, but really interested in the men and boys portion and the education there. So that's, I guess, kind of new to me, and I'm really interested in learning what others are doing and how we can move that forward.
Yeah, so that, I mean, Melissa, that's great, and I think that is helpful to, you know, to also kind of consider that our communities often are at different places along the spectrum in this work. That some communities maybe have been doing this work already for a while. Some people are like, we want to get started on engaging men and boys in these conversations. So yeah, there's kind of different points, and yeah, maybe even like one of the things that might be helpful is doing, like we got together, is having like maybe 3 communities who are engaging men and boys already and have been doing work, to kind of present on how they've been doing it and what they've been doing, and kind of sharing learnings. That might be helpful for,
Yeah, that would be great.
yeah, like some kind of skill sharing, knowledge sharing.
Okay.
Yeah. I think somebody has their microphone on, maybe. Lisa, from Valley View, they're co-hosting a men's wellness day on October 18th in Valley View. And yeah, okay, so and that's really insightful, Lisa. We also in St. Albert, we've been also developing some men's mental health supports and also just kind of men like efforts to reduce men's isolation without as much of an emphasis on men's mental health. So kind of both of those areas, which are not gender-based violence prevention specific or focused, but some of the research that I was looking at from the Calling in Men research project from Shift kind of points to this as an entry point, like an entry point for men, as kind of a starting place to start thinking about gender and gender-based violence and healthy relationships, is thinking about themselves and their own health and their own well-being as an entry place. So that's interesting. Yeah, in Beaumont, they've been working with Shifts, and they integrate some of those ideas into their youth work, and they're doing a men's shed. Nice, which sounds like it's growing really fast. So men's sheds are also not like a gender-based violence focused initiative. Men's sheds are like creating a space for men to get together, and it's a bit like kind of project focused. So they might do woodwork together, or do a community project, or help with things. But it's somewhat active, like it's not talk focused. It's doing things together. In Alberta, anyway, there's a lot. I would say a lot of it kind of leans towards older men that are participating in men's sheds, but not exclusively, and they are growing around the province. Ryan. Okay, Brian's in Didsbury, and they're working with SAGES and the Mountain View Emergency Shelter Society to get a men's Real Talk workshop series going. Yeah, so Real Talk is a project out of SAGES, which is helping people sort of respond to gender-based violence and kind of knowing how to have conversations about it. But it looks like trying to get a bit more in depth and get some workshops going there in Didsbury. So like lots of cool work. It would be so great to have like some common measurements that and be able to say, like, because I often think when the province looks at this issue, they think about the shelters and they think about the sexual assault centers, and they don't think, in my experience, they don't think about FCSS as a place and space to partner with and to fund and support to address gender-based violence, even though we have this incredible provincial scope and are in all these small communities, or like communities big and small. And so I think like being able to collect this to understand the provincial context of our work, I think there's a lot of value there. Okay, so I think this is a bit of an announcement here from the city of Edmonton, working with AHS to host an open space technology conference. Open space tech is like a marketplace where people come to pitch ideas about building this work. So that sounds like a very interesting opportunity, and kind of for learning and for sharing. Sounds like we don't know when that will be, but maybe this fall or this winter. Okay, also in October. Lots going on in October. Yeah, cool. So and I think this is part of the conversation, is like I know Michael and in Edmonton, they've been also working with like a virtual reality project around sexual harassment, and helping men and boys build empathy around the impacts of sexual harassment, and using virtual technology to do that. So you like, you can also see, like, for some people, it's like just trying to get, like, start a conversation about this. And, for others, they're like thinking about advanced, new technologies and how they interface. And thinking about our communities and what makes sense also means there isn't a one size fits all approach to this work. There's things that we can share and that can be common. And then there's, lots of things that evolve that make sense in our own communities. I remember at the session in November, I was told that one community is using rock climbing with young men and going to the rock climbing gym, and they're rock climbing and having conversations about healthy masculinity, and like it can look a lot of different ways. But I think having some common like measurements and outcomes is has a lot of potential for us together. Okay, so I'm gonna just talk about a couple things, and then I'm gonna pass it on over to Leanne to just share a resource that is available for all of us. So, whoopsie-doodle. So the first thing, here is just this. This is tongue in cheek. I hope people understand. This is sometimes the feeling that men get when we are having these conversations and we're trying to think about engaging men and boys. And this is maybe how some people feel, that when we talk about gender-based violence, the problem is men. And that's, that can be a valid feeling. And I'm certainly not here to invalidate anyone's feelings. The research shows that when we do this work and we're working to engage men and boys in the efforts to end gender-based violence, this mentality is not helpful. We are needing to find a strength-based approach, really seeing the opportunity to engage men and boys both as an opportunity, as something that is rife with potential to have a huge impact on a problem that we want to address. And so the reason we're engaging men and boys is positive, it's hopeful, and that's sort of the mentality we want to bring to it. And I think the other thing, and this also is in a lot of Shift's research, is the benefit for men that engaging in conversations about gender and about the impacts of patriarchy, the impacts of misogyny on them and the communities that they live in, it has benefit for them. So really trying to frame and think about for ourselves and for the communities we're trying to engage, that this is a win-win conversation. We're not trying to elevate, shift the power hierarchy in our community so that a different sector of our community now has power over other people and is dominating. But we're really trying to think about how to create communities where everyone can thrive, and that when you look at the way things are going in our communities, patriarchy is not really working well for men either. Men are isolated, they're lonely, they're struggling emotionally, they're dealing with high rates of addiction, suicide, right? Like, this is not working for men either. So so I guess I wanted to say that. And then also, not sure why I went down a bit of a like old comic style memes for this, but that's what came up. So this is nice. I mean, this is like insightful and helpful. I'll just give people a second to read that. And for me, as somebody who's like been in this world and has been exploring feminism, I guess going on almost 30 years now. This, this resonates for me. This is like, oh yeah, this is kind of what I need to do. But I think we need to be thoughtful, and one of the, again, what a lot of the research shows is trying to meet men where they're at. So if this is kind of our starting point and we're like, this is what I need you to be on this path, or to be part of this work, whether you call it feminism or, gender-based violence prevention, or whatever this is going to be alienating and inaccessible, like this language, this approach, for a lot of the men in our communities. It's not going to resonate with them. It's going to make them feel potentially like they don't have a part to play. This isn't for them. And so, yeah, so I think this also just points to, for me, like on a basic level, when we think about this work, how do we create those multiple entry points into this conversation that can resonate for men along a spectrum of engagement with this topic, from like kind of folks who are like pro use of violence, who have sort of attitudes and values that kind of support that, along the spectrum to folks who are kind of actively thinking about learning and acting in ways to end gender-based violence. And that spectrum, there's lots of different places along that for people to be. So how do we meet people where they're at and help them like nudge along that spectrum? So again, there's lots of plans and ideas and research and initiatives and kind of ways to think about that. But I kind of just wanted to kind of point to that for us, that and it often will depend where you are. Like there might be a different kind of spectrum of men in certain communities versus other communities, based on what's going on in those places. Okay, so I just wanted to turn it over to Leanne. Leanne's going to just share what I think is a really exciting resource opportunity for folks all over the province that we just learned about in the last week.
Awesome. Thanks, Tuval. And I learned that it's not you that's unstable, it's my Wi-Fi that's unstable. But it was just more fun to say it was you, but apparently it's me. So if I blitz out, just let me know. So my name is Leanne McMillan. I'm community development coordinator here in the city of St. Albert with FCSS. My pronouns are she and her. I recently went to a webinar hosted by Community Initiatives Against Family Violence, which is Kiev. And Kiev and CJS and another organization that I cannot recall off the top of my head are doing a province-wide campaign this fall. So they did the pilot in Edmonton it was called Keep It Real Edmonton, and that was 2022. And so they did pre and post evaluations. They've tweaked the campaign. And it's interesting, the timing, because Tuval and I have often talked about, wouldn't it be great if we just all had the same assets, all the same posters, wouldn't that have more of an impact? And lo and behold, this happens. So we can sign up to participate at no cost, which is amazing. They've done the research on it. They have all the assets, the posters, social media. The cost comes from each of our programs on what we want to do with those assets. So if you want to put it on social media and pay for boosting, if you want to put it in your local newspaper, the cost is up to you, but all the assets. They're even going to help in September and October do webinars around, how to ramp up, how to use the social media. So I think it's fantastic. And it fits in with the Keep It Real. I think it fits in with Real Talk. So they're looking at promoting Real Talk along with it. So people, it's based on I know very little about it, but the webinar I did last week, it's based on that scary stuff tends not to help people. So, you know, pictures of people with their, you know, a hand over their mouth, or there is some research that says that actually increases violence and fear. So what this campaign has gone on is the average person doesn't know what to say. So let's start there. So the campaign is how to listen, what to say, how to keep an open mind, and have got really good feedback. Some of the bigger cities will be putting on radio, maybe on TV. So in the chat, I just put in the contact. So Daniela is the person who is the person to contact. She can invite you to the next webinar, which is next week. So I'm excited, and I think it's a great opportunity for FCSS is just to get some free stuff, some free assets, rather than each municipality just chugging along trying to prepare their own. Yeah, so I think that's everything. Thanks to all.
Yeah, thanks, Leanne. And yeah, Brody's just asked if there is a website yet for that, or if it's just email contact with Daniela at this point.
My understanding is it's just email contact. What when you contact her, you
Oh, you just froze.
Bad time to freeze. All this
you
look
can
at the
ask to sign up
Kiev
to their
website
newsletter,
too.
and they will start to. Okay. Is it on the website yet?
Oh, sorry. I'll just look right now. You just froze,
Okay.
Leanne. So yeah, just hopped in there. But yeah, I'll look it up. Thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure. And contact Danielle. That would be just really great. I think it would raise a presence to the province, to the other players in the province, that FCSS is a key player in prevention. That's what we're funded for. So I think if a lot of FCSS is engaged and we're interested, I think that raises our profile in what kind of work we do. Even though we've been around for 55 years, some people still don't know we're out there. So I think this would really help us elevate our presence as well in the field of prevention.
Nice. Yeah, and I think I don't know if people remember, but the Alberta Association of Sexual Assault Centers did a campaign a few years ago, the I Believe campaign. That also, I think this is kind of similar. It's focused on action and response, and not on kind of that kind of shaming, blaming language. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity, and I know in communities where there is FCSS and a shelter, or another like similar type of organization, there's also opportunities to partner on these kind of campaigns and communication strategies. So yeah, so I think that's exciting, and yeah, I think it would be really cool. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's something we can kind of send out through, because I know like there were 60 people from the workshop in November who said they wanted to keep in touch, and there were 48 people who registered for today, and we have quite a bit less than 60 and 48 today. So that there might be value in sending out information about this campaign throughout FCSS, maybe to the directors, or yeah, I'm not sure how best to do it, but that might be a good opportunity. Yeah, and I guess just kind of the last thing I wanted to say about the approach to this work is just, yeah, in relationship to this slide is, I think there is a lot of defensiveness in communities now, I think, around conversations about gender, generally speaking. A lot of fear and divisiveness around trans rights and trans issues, and young people, and lots of these things. And I think there is a lot of overlap, and I think we are our accountabilities are to all of our community members and their safety and well-being, and these, this is all part of it. At the same time, I think like the work we're doing with men and boys is not to emasculate or take, unless people don't want to be masculine, that's their choice, but we're not promoting or trying to take away people's right to be masculine or to be men or to be, you know, to be that. So it's really thinking about how do we reshape some of the ideas we have about what it means to be a man that support harmful outcomes, as this slide sort of suggests. Yeah, so yeah, again, it's kind of that strength-based. Men, we want men to be a part of this conversation because they have a role to play. They can have an impact, and we're not trying to like steal their manliness or their manhood. We're trying to re-examine what all of that package of being a man is, to pull out some of the things that maybe, you know, can cause harm to men and to others in our communities. I think especially because there were so many people who've expressed interest in this that didn't come today. I think for me, I think the next step is to send out a survey this summer, to get a sense of people's level of interest and what they'd like to get out of this kind of collaboration, and so that this can keep pointing in a direction that makes sense for people. As Leanne is suggesting here in the chat, my vision, but I don't want to do things that other people don't want to do, is to maybe meet 3 or 4 times a year. You know, not a huge time commitment, and just kind of keep things connected, keep things moving. Do people want to just yeah, if people can just put a thumbs up if they would like to do something like that. Would that be of interest to people, to get together, you know, 3 or 4 times a year in this way? We'd have more of an agenda. It would be maybe a bit more directed, I think, if that's what people want. But yeah, I think we would do a survey and get a sense. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, that's the sense I sort of gotten from in November from the meeting, and in communication with people, is there is a desire. You know, I'm trying to kind of figure out from a provincial, you know, FCSS, like I'm not the boss of this. You know, I'm not in charge. No one's given me a title or a role. So, you know, I don't want to be sort of taking charge or pushing something in a direction that doesn't work for people. I really just feel like there's a need, and want to kind of fill that need as it makes sense for people. So so please feel free to email me. Oh, my email's not in there. I'll just put it right here in the chat. But I will, yeah, we'll be sending out some kind of survey to get a sense of what people want. But if there's something, you know, in the short term that you're thinking, or you're just thinking right now, you really want to communicate, please send me an email. Let me know what you think would work, what would be of benefit, what makes sense. You know, do you want to focus on kind of outcome measures, on learning strategies, on looking at research together, just sharing stories, like what, you know, that's, I think just trying to get a sense, because I know what I like and want, but that, like, I'm just one person. I'm not in charge. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, recommendations, anything people want to share before I let you go back into the real world?
I will just add, Tuval, that we are happy, the association is happy to share any information or any polling that you want to do. We will share the recording with the whole membership, and also happy to put anything in our newsletter that you want to get out to all the FCSS programs. So any way we can help with this initiative, which I think is really important, we're here to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, I appreciate it. I imagine some people maybe wanted a bit more today, like let's get going, let's get this moving. You've been waiting and you're ready. But yeah, as I said, like I don't have a directive. I'm kind of, yeah, just want to collect people together and then kind of make this work for people. So thank you for participating. Thank you for showing up today. I hope you are in a smoke-free part of Alberta today, and you have a great rest of the week and weekend. Thank you for coming, and yeah, we'll do this again, it looks like, and I look forward to seeing you in the near future. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great day.